There is no event in Cuban history that has contributed more to the destruction of the family as the 1959 Castro Revolution. Since January 1st, 1959, the Cuban family began its decline as a result of the political partitioning that was instituted during the first year of drastic changes. The first were sudden family divisions due to the departures from the island of the family members that had been part of our employed by the deposed government of Fulgencio Batista, followed by the summary executions and kangaroo trials that sent thousands to jail. The mass exodus separating Cuban families started once Castro's tilt toward a totalitarian communist regime became evident within 6 months after taking power. Early on in 1959, the opposition to Castro began. Many joined the movement to unseat Castro in hopes of returning Cuba to its democratic system. Others thought that Castro would not last and that he would fall on his own. Many who left Cuba in early 1959 did so in order to spare their family further suffering because of the bloodshed they foresaw. By the fall of 1960, many Cuban parents, fearful for their children's future in an increasingly militarized society where they were losing their rights about their children's education, took the traumatic step of sending them alone to the United States. From December 26, 1960, throughout October 22, 1962, 14,048 kids unaccompanied children between 6 and 18 years old left Cuba in what it became known as Operation Peter Pan. It was the largest exodus of children in the Western Hemisphere and larger than the 1930 smuggling of the 7,482 Jewish children out of Nazi Germany to England and other countries. It left many Cuban families separated from their children in the U.S., while many of those who remained in Cuba with their children had them taken by the Castro government and sent for indoctrination abroad to the communist countries of Eastern Europe and to inaccessible places throughout Cuba. The program to destroy the family unit for political reasons started 41 years ago in Cuba. Consequently, children as well as adults suffer. The parents of the children of Operation Peter Pan wanted to reunite with them, but it was very difficult to obtain the exit permit from the Cuban government. Many of those parents were executed and sent to jails and concentration camps for their democracy activities. Others were eventually able to obtain the exit permit or escape by boat and were finally reunited with their children in the U.S., but not all reunions were happy after years of separation. Another way to separate the families within their own house was by fear and mistrust. The communist indoctrination process encouraged children to report their parents' political and religious beliefs to officials at their schools. Children were discouraged from participating in religious activities. Parents became careful of what they might say or do in front of their own children. A technique often used was to divide the parents by sending them to jobs far away from home. With the bad transportation and communications, seeing each other became nearly impossible. Housing became scarce since the 1960s. As children became adults and married, they could not leave their parents' home. As families grew, they had to continue living under the same roof in cramped and rapidly deteriorating quarters with no privacy. Many newlywed couples opt for living apart from each other at home of their parents, sometimes in different parts of the island. These arrangements and the lack of the privacy contributed to the high rate of divorce that plagues Cuban society. The lack of housing resources. The laws of religion principles and family values, promiscuity, and prostitution in order to survive have given Cuba one of the highest abortion rates in the Western Hemisphere. In spite of the prevalent propaganda in the US, Castro's Cuba is lethal ground on which to raise a family. Children's education is taken from their parents' control. Children are taught primarily alliance to Castro and his revolution from kindergarten on. They are taught to hate all who do not agree with communism. Institutionally, Castro's regime deprives children of the right to drink milk at age 7. Since Castro, Cuban children have to grow up without toys and other good afforded them in most of other countries. From age 11, they were not anymore. They were sent for 45 to 60 days per year to work in the fields with no pay in order to repay for their free education. So, like I said, the children start, they're not staying in the school. You know, there's two different kinds of schools. The schools that you stay in your house and you go to the school, you know, in the morning, and the schools that you have to stay all the time in a place and they let you out on the weekends or something like that. You would call it scholarships or something like that. But during the day, you have to work also in the field, whatever they, you know, to pick up oranges, to anything that they need. They are forced to work long hours, given an inadequate diet and dreadful living quarters. Many of them return home ill and have venereal disease and lice. Many girls get pregnant. Abortions are liberally performed upon request, even at an early age. And this is true because I have some friends in Cuba, and she told me that it's easy as drinking a glass of water. She told me that they sell also the after the day after pill for 1 Cuban peso, and that abortions are completely free and you do it like nothing, you know. Males from age 15 to 27 have to face a compulsory military service that did not exist in Cuba before Castro. No Cuban males between those ages are allowed an exit permit to travel abroad until their 3-year military service is concluded, even if exempt from military service for health reasons. Youngsters are not able to attend college or university unless they and their parents have fulfilled all of their communist obligations. And this is true because I was denied to go into a school of arts because I didn't go to the field to work for during 3 years that I had to go. Every year I had to go for a whole month, and my mother didn't let me go because of those problems, the pregnancy, and and all, pedophilia from the teachers. One of the tools used to repress and blackmail people in Cuba is the separation from or punishment of family members. Children are innocent victims of this practice, and this is 100%. Everything here is 100% truth. During all of the years of this regime, there have been thousands of cases of families that received Castro's permit to live while permits for their children are denied. Some families have left their children behind to try to get them later, while most have to decide to stay with them. When a person defects, his or her children, spouse, or other family members are denied permission to leave. In fact, they are being held as hostages to prevent defectors from talking abroad. Yes, the Cuban family has been destroyed by the Castro regime. There's a lot of prostitution, a lot of families separated, a lot of death, the mistrust within the family. Is, I think this is all, it was all, it's one of the many things perpetrated by the Castro family against the Cubans. in Cuba.